everything you thought you
Okay, I'm done.
knew. That's not going to be a running theme now.
This will not be a running theme. You know what we all need? More remakes, more sequels, more prequels, more midquels. We need more just
Midquels?
rehashings of old things. Everybody knows it. So, man, was it awesome to see that Roadhouse, a beloved 1989 classic with His Majesty Patrick Swayze, was recently remade for Amazon Prime with Jake Gyllenhaal and Conor McGregor. We decided that we were not interested at all in watching said remake, but let's go back to the original, back to the 80s, back to Last Page! Issue number 38 of Last Page. Thank you for joining us. I am Maverick King, joined today by Rembo and Jason Cedars across the oceans of the internet. Please like, subscribe, follow us down our trail as we decide to venture back into the 80s. We went recently, a couple months ago, into 80s films, I think mostly during October for some movies. And yeah, the new, and I like Jake Gyllenhaal a lot. I think we all like Jake Gyllenhaal. He's a great actor. But it just didn't really seem all that interesting to watch just a remake of a movie that is fun from the 80s. It's very much of the time. And why just watch a lesser product? So this was I think my third time watching Roadhouse. Jason, you are from the 80s. Do you know roughly what this is for you?
Yeah, no, this was first viewing.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I know. I can't believe this went under my radar.
Remy, it was first viewing for you too, right?
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, very exciting. Because I did want to. I was very much down to watch this movie again. Patrick Swayze is one of the most iconic. I want to say actors necessarily, but he is a very much iconic. It's the way he looks. I always felt. No, that's a lie. I didn't always feel. I just had this thought. I feel like Kevin Costner wants to be Patrick Swayze. And that he wants to be the guy that can just stare and look awesome. But really, it's Patrick Swayze. So let's just start it off. The plot, if you're not familiar with Roadhouse, is a bouncer hired to clean up the baddest honky-tonk in a Missouri town. Armed with a black belt in karate and a PhD in philosophy, Patrick Swayze sets out to tame the double deuce for its owner.
The PhD in philosophy, how they just sprinkled that into his character background in one scene. I'm like,
yeah, that didn't. I do not recall his PhD scene, but nonetheless, Patrick Swayze plays a character named Dalton. He does not. Whether that's his first name or last name, we don't
Unclear.
know. Every other character has a first and last name, pretty much, except for him. He's just Dalton, and
It's
people
his
know
last
who
name?
Dalton is.
and you don't find out until the second movie that his dad was named James Dalton. And I did some other research too, and I guess in the hospital scene you can see it on his file that I guess he brought himself. You know, he walks around with his own file of all of his injuries that he hands to the doctor. You see James or something on there, so James Dalton.
Well, there's a Roadhouse 2 apparently, but that came out in 2006 with like some jabronis. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna pretend that movie doesn't exist. Jason, what were your thoughts watching Roadhouse for the first time?
Went in with super low expectations. Like, I thought I was not going to enjoy this movie. It's going to be some 80s throwaway where I felt like I'd seen all the powerhouse 80s movies, and I feel like we've reviewed a lot of those big ones, you know, like Predator being kind of the last one that was in my mind. But went in with super low expectations, and right off the start, I was like, I'm going to love this movie, you know, because I think I read somewhere it's the classic, you know, good bad movie, but this was a great horrible movie. You know, it is fantastic, and then like it checking all of those man boxes of the 80s of like cars, cool cars, not only cool cars but monster trucks. We got to have that in there too. And then we're gonna do guns and explosions, check, you know, drugs, women, dancing, boobs. It's like all these things where it's like, okay, wait, we have to have all of the things that the 80s wants out of us. We must put that into one movie, and it is so fun. I mean, it gets a little dark and quick at the very end because I know they probably had to just wrap up the funness by introducing guns and murder later in the movie, but like that first like hour and 20 minutes is just solid, just good old times in the 80s of people drinking and fighting and and roadhouse kicking. His signature, like, what is that style kick, the spin around one where it's not a
Roundhouse kick.
hurricane. Roundhouse, thank you. Yeah, I was thinking hurricane kick from Street Fighter. I'm like, I don't think he's pulling that one off. Yeah, with that like straight knee roundhouse kick that he does, and yeah, we made that reference earlier to Family Guy. I expected him to look at the camera and just go Roadhouse afterwards. So yeah, had a fantastic time, and I'm really excited to talk about this.
For you, super fun. This movie is basically a blown up A-Team episode where people actually die. In an A-Team episode, nobody ever dies ever. People are shot at and around, apprehended, kidnapped, let go. Nobody ever dies. You roll your dice, you move your mice, nobody gets hurt. Very random VeggieTales reference in there. But super fun. Like I said off air, is just who's who of who is in this movie. Just a lot of like, oh, I know you from other things, which was really fun to kind of just be like, oh, I know that guy. Oh, I know that person. I will say 2 hours, a little bit long in the runtime for this. This could have been wrapped up in an hour 30, hour 45, hour 40. But I definitely found myself laughing out loud at multiple parts of this movie for various reasons. So super fun. I haven't seen that many Patrick Swayze movies. This might be the only Patrick Swayze movie I've ever seen, actually.
Ghost?
No.
I feel like everyone's seen
Point
Ghost.
Break?
Nope.
Oh, okay. You gotta watch Point Break.
And is he also Dirty Dancing?
Yeah.
Okay, so I know Dirty Dancing, obviously, and I know Point Break, but I have not seen those movies. So
I haven't seen Ghost or Dirty Dancing, so my Patrick Swayze-ness is pretty much these two, or Point Break in this movie.
Okay.
But he is, you can kind of tell, like, what I'm guessing the other movies are similar. He just has the presence and the look. And what I really like about this movie, especially the beginning of the movie and the introduction of his character, he really doesn't say anything. He just walks around and he's just witnessing just white trash losers beating the shit out of each other at some rundown bar. And you're just seeing, just like, there's not even disgust on his face. He's just witnessing everything. He's just watching everything, seeing
a lot of head nods. A lot of head nods.
And you, the audience, you're not like, you don't have to be told that these people are scumbags. You just are like, yeah, this is a really shitty bar I would not want to go to. And he is a cooler. He is the head bar protector guy that all the bouncers answer to, and his services are very much in demand. And so the owner of a bar in Missouri called the Dirty Deuce,
the Double Deuce.
Double Deuce.
He comes to hire his services. It's $5,000. What is it? $5,000 up front, $500 a day. You pay all medical expenses.
I was like, sign me up.
and I was like, you probably should know by now to put a clause in there to fix all car damage, because apparently he knew his car was going to get fucked up from the get-go.
Smartest thing that he did that whole movie was buy an old car to come up and be like, I know you're going to fuck my ride up. Let me put a shitty one out front. But the best thing is how he quits that job. How he quits the job after the buddy gives him that like great number. I can't remember exactly what it. Well, I know actually I wrote it down because it was so classic what he says. Oh, by the way, the bandstand's all yours. I'm out. And his boss is like, wait, what? Walks right out.
I think that's definitely a wet dream of anybody who's ever been employed, is just being like, getting a better job, and you're just like, and I'm done. I'll see y'all never. Just walking out immediately on the spot. That's definitely a fantasy of anybody who's ever had a job.
Well, I guess being a cooler, which I had to look that up, what actually that was. I'm like, is this the next level of bouncing? You know, Super Saiyan, you know, it's like you have now graduated. Boom, you're a cooler now. But he is famous, I guess, in this state as this cooler that everyone knows what who coolers are, even when Sam
Dalton, I heard he killed a guy once.
Yeah, there's like all of this talk around the state, I guess, is very far. It goes from city to city about certain bouncers. So in that era, they were famous men.
That is the one thing that was the one thing that everyone knew who Dalton was just by the name Dalton, except for when he makes a phone call to the bar that Sam Elliott, or the strip club that Sam Elliott's working at, and the guy's like, "Hey, some guy named Dalton." I was like, "That's the only time it's inconsistent because everyone else knows
yeah.
exactly who he is." And I was like, "I'm pretty sure you guys would know." But regardless, Remy, what was your introduction to Patrick Swayze for that first 15 minutes? He gets the car. He goes to the Double Deuce, and he's just watching the shit show that is that honky tonk. What was your thoughts?
Yeah, just very, very speak softly, carrying a big stick. Take that as you will. I like that he in his initial introduction into the other bar. Yeah, in the very, very first scene at the other bar, he doesn't fuck the dude up. Like, he goes outside and they set up the expectation that you're just like, oh shit, he's gonna like fuck him up, fuck two dudes up right now, right off the gate. And then he doesn't, which is even more of a power move, because it's just like, oh, you're so not worth my time. I don't even care. And then he just like leaves them outside and they're calling him all sorts of names and he doesn't care. And so
after the guy stabs him.
Yeah, the dude actually cuts him, which happens a bunch in this movie. But so I thought that was a really like a very fun, like, oh yeah, don't show all your cards initially, and like really it sets up for a good payoff of when he does have his first moment, which is the guy pulls a knife and he grabs the dude's hand and then the back of his head and then just smashes his face into the table in like a one piece, like a one move, and then everybody's just like, oh my god, that's Dalton.
Oh my god.
But yeah, just cool. I like that you can pick up a lot of, like, you get a real sense of his personality and who he is just by his observation and his very small reactions to what's going on. He's kind of amused at certain things he's going on. He's like just very observant and aware of all these different things that are happening.
The girl in the white dress coming up and ordering a vodka on the rocks, and then the guy next to her going, "Hey, vodka on the rocks, want to get nipple to nipple?"
Crazy pickup line.
Yes, I laughed out loud during that. I'm like, yes,
nipple to nipple.
Like,
he's like a really ugly guy.
Yeah,
a really ugly guy.
The other thing, the level of girls that were hanging out at this bar, I'm like, none of those girls would be caught dead in this shithole bar here.
They literally have chicken wire up to protect the band from getting bottles thrown at them.
Luckily, he's blind because he's getting like shards of glass in his face while he's playing.
The man has no eyeballs. He could care less.
Luckily,
he couldn't care less. He has literally no eyeballs. The So I mean, yeah, in that introduction, we get introduced to the singer who is, I'm forgetting his name now.
I wrote it down. It is Jeff Healey.
Jeff Healey. Thank you. Which, yeah, I was like, oh, a blind musician. I was like, that's an interesting random thing to add to a character in a bar. And then I looked him up and I was like, oh, wait, nope, he's really blind, like fully fucking blind. He had cancer in his eyes, and they had to take both of them out. So
when he was like 1 year old too.
Yeah,
like
so both of those eyes are 100% fake, which is actually crazy because I didn't like, they're good prosthetics. I didn't actually think they were fake eyes. I thought he was just, playing fake for a second.
And for the 80s too.
Pretty wild. Yeah. And yeah, he's a legitimate musician, like very like, and you can tell how he plays, but also like that's just who he is. So cool detail. I like it's one of those things, like, you don't have to put a real musician in a movie, but I like that detail of like, let's get a real and an interesting, not just a regular musician, but a fucking blind one. So
it does add.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
It does add to there's a community, the community of coolers, bouncers, musicians. Like they already knew each other. Dalton and the band already knew each other, that they've worked together in other places. And that is a cool thing about Roadhouse, is that the cool people kind of watch out for each other, and then there's the shitheads you got to get rid of and weed out.
At one point,
go ahead.
At one point, someone asked a musician, like, "Who's that Dalton guy?" or something like that, and he's like, "If you fuck with him, he will seal your fate." And I was like, "Oh my god, that's a super heavy line coming from this guy." The blind musician. I was like, "Damn, okay, I'm really really watching out for Dalton."
I was just gonna say another person that I recognized. I was like, there's so many people in this movie that I didn't look up the cast or anything before I watched it, and so I was just watching it and I was just like, oh shit, there's like all these people. I didn't know Sam Elliott was gonna be in it. He's in it, but the other bouncer that he fires is a pro wrestler. He was a part of like the NWA era. NWO. Sorry, NWO era. The NWO. He at WCW, and basically when the WWF had like a split where there was a lot of wrestlers out in WCW, and then at ECW, he was one of the big ECW guys. So you like, if you recognize his face, he hung around a lot of those guys, which was cool to see, because I was like, yeah, this guy's like, he's got a very specific vibe.
That's another box that this movie checked, was like the kung fu cinematography along with the WWF kind of cinematography. Kind of
I mean, I knew for sure when he picked up a dude over his head. He like picks up a guy in the middle of the bar fight. He picks up a dude over his head like this and throws him. I was like, oh, this dude's a wrestler for sure.
Wrestler move.
No, that is one cool thing about the choreography and cinematography, and that they use stunt doubles sometimes, but there's a lot, like a lot of the actors are actually, and it's not necessarily the best choreography, but the fact that a lot of the actors are actually throwing punches, and Patrick Swayze and Sam Elliott, like they're throwing punches, and a lot of them, I think it is pretty cool because they're not just totally relying on every time it's the back of their head as they're doing something and it's a stunt double. I do feel like it is a good balance that they have in there. That scene where he's walking around and the pro wrestling guy, he's just throwing people with reckless abandon into each other. He just doesn't care. There's a guy skimming money out of the register. There's a chick selling coke that works there, and it is just a complete nightmare. It's Bar Rescue before Bar Rescue was a show. This movie is Bar Rescue.
The husband allowing random dudes to feel his wife
for $10. $10 a kiss.
That's when I was like, okay, I'm slightly uncomfortable watching this movie now.
It is wild because I was watching him like, how is this place even existing? Like, how this place would have fucking burned to the ground ages ago. There's no way.
But the longer the movie goes, the more and more just ridiculous. Like, you have to just assume real things don't happen. Like the longer it goes, it's just like, okay, the cops don't show up once. Not once. No, when there's a stabbing, a shooting. Later, there's a building gets burned down, and it's like, all of a sudden that building is in the parking lot pretty much of the bar, and it never was established that it was there.
The whole rest of the movie.
And then as the body count does start to happen in the third act, it's just like, okay, you could just call the cops now and get them, but it's like, no, they're in the pocket. Well, if they're in the pocket, you could have killed Dalton like way long ago, but instead of killing all these random, so there's all these things that it's just like, all right, but the longer the movie goes, the less sense it makes. You just gotta just appreciate just how ridiculous it gets.
Yeah, I feel like that's why the ending was a little quicker. You know, you felt like the fun was for 2/3 of the movie, and they're like, okay,
was
gonna get
almost
super.
Sorry.
Yeah, they were like, it's gonna get super ridiculous. Let's make this as short a ridiculousness as possible.
Fuck it, we'll get to it. But the ending, I was almost crying laughing because it just takes a corner where it's just like, what the fuck? Like, it's the Avengers. It's literally Mississippi Avengers or Missouri.
People start teleporting into that building.
Oh my god!
And there's people there. And I'm like, wait, how did you get in here?
Dude, YouTube, like the YouTube algorithm won't allow us, but it'd be great to play the Avengers Portal song to the ending of this movie. Anyway, we're getting ahead of our skis.
Yeah.
So then, so Dalton
he
fires
takes over.
people.
Yeah.
Takes over, sends people that are doing nefarious works at the bars, gets rid of them. Comes back the next day, same thing, tries to get rid of more of them. I'm trying to think of which point.
It's a little bit discombobulated where it's like one thing happens and then it's like a few things kind of merge together.
we slowly get introduced to like the muscle of the bad guy.
Yeah.
They start to come in, or they're members that get fired. The guy that's skimming
the
is the
ex-employees now go to the other side, essentially.
right, and they go to this dude that runs the town pretty much. He has all the money. Everyone owes him something, and no one messes with him because he runs everything, even though he's like 60 years old or whatever. And it's like everyone's scared of him. So then there's interesting things that happen. I'm trying to remember what's like the next.
It starts to like flesh out like the town in his life. Like he rents the room from the guy.
Oh yes, they're one of my favorite lines of the whole movie is during that scene.
Go ahead.
When he goes, I wrote it down. When he goes to rent the room from like Mr. Good Old Boy,
Farmer Joe.
Yeah, Farmer Joe. And he's like, nobody wants to rent the room, and he's like, how about $100 a month? How does that sound? And which is like, he obviously is making a lot more than that. And so he's like, I could do that. And he's like, he says, if it keeps you in the good graces of the church. And the farmer goes, ain't it peculiar how money seems to do that very thing?
Yes.
Great line. Great line.
Jab to the church. Yeah. Because I mean, he says a little earlier, he's like, I'd rent this room to you for free if it wasn't for like the Protestants. He like throws out some names, something like that, So you already see that he's like getting it, and he lives across the street from the richest dude in the whole world.
Right. So just to be an asshole, just to show you what kind of dick he is, he flies his helicopter and riles up his horses.
Just buzzes him every day, just as close as he can, this ass hat, and then throws naked women parties out in the backyards, super loud music.
He drives, he swerves.
Yeah, he's literally just driving. He's borderline.
Life could be a dream, dream on. This guy is a menace.
But
then he has nothing better to do than watch Patrick Swayze have sex across the lake.
He's a sophisticated version of Jeff Bridges' character from The Big Lebowski when he's driving and smoking at the same time.
Dude, that bad guy. Yeah. And so ex-husband or ex-fling of the girl that he's hooking up with, I never really figured out.
Yeah, they're just like,
there's something that happened.
Yeah. Which
they don't really say if it was a mutual interest. It's just like, oh, he used to really like her. But they don't really say if it. I don't think they ever clarify if they actually did the fondue.
Some predatory person in her life, right?
Yeah,
waiting for her outside. But yeah, the whole kind of part of the movie is them just fleshing out characters. Then Red being the gas station owner,
another character,
which is the uncle to the doctor. It's like this town has like two families in it, and they're all like interbreeding. So it's like fresh blood when Patrick Swayze comes in. So it's like, but yeah, that Red character is awesome. He has another great one-liner, and I didn't get it all down, but it's something about marrying an ugly woman. Like he does something like, don't ever do it because it sucks something out of you. We need to like go back, but it is so funny because he talks about being married at some point. It's like
I'll clip it in. I'll clip.
Yeah, because then he's like, well, what happened? He's like, well, she found someone uglier than herself. Is why she divorced him. It's like a very subtle one, but then afterwards I was laughing about it. Like a couple minutes it took for it to sink in. But yeah, great character who was just another travesty character to like fuel the rage against this wealthy businessman. It's like, he's been hustling money out of me and then burns down my place. Patrick, you got to get him for me.
So that guy also recognized him from the A-Team. He's in an A-Team episode. Red West is his name. And the character's name is also Red, and he has a history of being named Red in his movies and shows that he's in. Super random. But
he just finds auditions, and it says character's name's Red. He's like, I'm here. That's what I do. I'm a red character.
I'm Red.
I'm red. Ginger. Gotta sell the role to me of a ginger.
The most random thing, that dude, he's most famous for being Elvis Presley's best friend.
Like in
real life. He was there when he died on the toilet?
I don't know if he was there, but no, go and look up Red West, dude. Bunch of pictures of him with Elvis from when they were kids. like through his whole life. Like they went to high school together. He was born in Memphis, Tennessee, died there, born, raised there. And like, yeah, Elvis and him were like BFFs. Super random, super fucking random. But if you go and look up Red West, there's a bunch of pictures of him and Elvis.
I wonder if he tried out for to play Red in Shawshank Redemption, and he's just like, "Who got the role? What?
Some old guy who doesn't have red hair?
Oh, they see me on the list.
Oh yeah.
Do they not know that I've been Red 37 times? This is what I do.
I run unopposed. This is what I do.
You're some other Red. You show up and you see him. You're like, dang, the King Red is here. He's gonna get the role for sure.
God damn it.
Oh,
yeah. I like all the different forms of muscle. Oh, so yeah, I like the muscle that. So for the 80s, if you had one earring.
Yes.
It meant
on the left side, I believe the left side.
If you had a left side earring, it basically meant that you were not straight. And so he has a bouncer dude with one earring, and they like exchange this look when I don't know what the guy's name is, but like muscle bad guy with one earring. When him and like Swayze first exchange looks. I don't know if he's trying to give Swayze like fuck me eyes, but I think he like kind of is. And so then later when he gives him the line about prison, I was like, oh, I think he was. I think he is kind of was one of those like kind of want to kill
you. For sure. That's the no 100%. That dude was cast and looks and everything, the positioning, everything. That dude clearly. That's why the line later is so good, because the setup, it's not just random, like it's been built that there is one-way sexual tension in this relationship.
This dangling plot thread, I'm so glad they fixed that one up at the very end to assure this character's origin.
Yeah, there's like, it's funny because all it's like you have a good variety of muscle in this movie. So you have Patrick Swayze, big strong jaw. You have the one earring guy, big strong jaw. You have the dude with acromegaly, I think, the guy who's like 7 feet tall, big strong jaw. Sam Elliott, not necessarily a strong jaw, strong face, but then you have like a couple of like super fat guys, and then like the one random skinny guy. So good variety of like body types through this. But like the dude with, and then there's like the guy who has like the who drives the monster truck, who has like the knife in his shoe. He had like a big fucking strong jaw. I just love that they cast so specifically. I'm just like, that's the face we're looking for.
I mean, it's so cartoony and slapsticky almost at some points, where it is like that just typical henchman group, and it's every body type and things like that. And some of the fights, I almost expected to hear some of those like boing noises when they punch someone, or
pow.
Yeah, or a kapow, like a big explosion on the screen, like
a Batman, 60s Batman.
Yeah. Like it almost got to that point in some of the fights, but it did a good kind of balance of it, then being a little bit more bloody, I guess, than some of those fights would be.
To circle back to One Earring Guy, given that remakes, sequels, prequels, I'm surprised we didn't get a prequel with his character. And it could be like, the way that Hollywood makes movies is everything has to be like, oh, the fans will be looking for that, where the fans will be looking for that. And just be like, oh, this is when he's in prison. This is when he's gonna fuck the other guys. Like, I'm surprised we didn't get the backstory of this dude.
I am not surprised. That's not something I want to watch.
Not you, but just the way that, we're getting like, look at the spin-off character. We're getting what Margaret Hagatha was behind it all. Agatha is getting her own sequel series. Like,
oh, I'm excited about that
prequel. I'd rather watch prequel to this dude in prison than watch Agatha was behind it.
Dude, old Catherine, I've seen much more of her. Yeah,
dude, give me a.
I really do like
bullshit.
I like that actress. I always forget her name until I look it up. But
no, she's good. That character is fine, but I don't need an entire
of all the characters to do.
Her.
Like,
she was a meme. She's a meme stock, Jason. You're buying Dogecoin.
And Hey, some of us made a couple $100 off of Dogecoin.
I was gonna say, I think people are finally making money off of Bitcoin now. If you held out
Dogecoin,
Bitcoin,
Jason,
yeah.
very Dogecoin, very sophisticated.
Dogecoin is a meme stock, Jason. I don't have time to explain meme stocks.
Oh, the Reddit ones.
cryptos.
Yes. I'm familiar. Yes. Okay, so one other thing I've learned from this movie, if you're a man in the 80s, is you don't wear underwear underneath your jeans. I guess that's something.
Pull that shit up.
It's just straight jeans onto just everything down there. It's, and then you show that off too. When Sam's ready to show off his scar, which is like halfway up his ribs, he goes
He's
to
just
pull
like,
it
let me
up.
pull out.
down, dude.
There is weird, like there is weird. Sam Elliott gets introduced and is immediately just looks amazing.
Yeah,
he's just got the perfect
Constantly
salt
the
pepper hair.
Uh-huh.
He just seems cool. You're just like, this dude's cooler than Patrick Swayze.
I
Like
thought
that's
Patrick
weird.
Swayze was cool, and then I met him.
But like, there's weird energy where like Sam Elliott shows up and he's buddies with Patrick Swayze. And then when Patrick Swayze doesn't tell him, but then introduces his new fling girlfriend, and he's like, you motherfucker. And the whole time he's like, I don't want to dance. And he's doing all these things and he's staring at her. And I'm like,
Oh yeah,
have Patrick Swayze
dancing in
and
the
Sam
Waffle
Elliott
House.
two-timed one chick.
for sure.
Definitely. These dudes
Absolutely.
are Eskimo bros, you know?
Yes,
They did. They've
That is
hit.
the
They've hit the Eiffel Tower.
that is
That's
the
where-
exact conversation me and Mimi had while watching
The
that
Eiffel
scene
Tower,
when we did.
Jason. In case you don't know, is where guys are. Hold on. They're-
I don't need it. You can stop right there. I'm good.
No.
I'm good.
No, let him explain it. Explain it.
I was turned on when they were.
This is important.
What was the line?
This
Oh,
is important context for the movie. It's
Please,
character
please,
building.
continue.
When two guys are fucking the same girl, one guy from the back, one guy from the front, and then they high five.
All right, this is too much. We might have to edit this one out.
No, it goes along with the aura of Roadhouse, because in Roadhouse we do get like a crazy amount of tits. We'll get a lot of ass. We get all these different things. I mean, one of my favorite lines is Dalton's at the bar and the blonde chick is just staring at him, and she's like, "Hey, Dalton, you want to go back to my place and fuck?"
Yeah. She loads up on the word fuck. She's like, fuck. Just says it so bluntly.
Like, okay, am I
No.
gonna be like all
Crazy.
submissive, secretive about this, or am I just gonna come out and say it? I'm not gonna beat around the bush. I'm just gonna go right for what I
Which,
want.
I mean, her place is the other guy's mansion, so I don't know exactly what her plan was.
The walk of shame across the pond.
Yeah.
Oh god, yeah, the women in that movie, they
They're-
are.
Yeah, I mean,
held in
yeah,
very high light.
it was interesting when she's introduced. I was like, oh, she's gonna be the love interest because she's given him such hard energy that I was like, oh, she's gonna be the love interest. But I'm like, oh no, she's like the other girl, the other guy's girl. But then they bring her back a few times to like try and get him, and then she does her little like stripper dance and everything. She's more involved in the movie than I would have expected in a different way.
Yeah, and then the scene where he comes into the mansion, she's clearly just been
Yeah, and she's got fucked up.
like that, and that's like, oh, that's going to be now the energy to get him to finally do something to the old big bad guy, but nope, not
Nope.
enough yet.
Not until his buddy, well,
Stabbed with a note on his chest,
which
like,
I mean, the most ridiculous, obvious setup ever. He's like, I'm gonna kill one or two of them. He's like, all right, you're fucked up. You stay here by yourself. I'm gonna go check out the like. Why can't you just put him in the back of the fucking car? Like, just literally take him in the car with you,
Or
and
drop
hold
him
on,
off at the
I need-
hospital.
and yeah, literally anything.
and he's, hold on, I need to flip a coin real quick, so just give me 1 second. Okay, so what I got was it was tails, it's like,
But then he's like, no, I'm not gonna tell you. He's like, I wish I could tell you. It's like,
oh, that's right, he doesn't even tell him what he flipped. You got to figure it out
the,
yourself.
yeah,
Which then
but-
Sam teleports there immediately because as soon as he hangs up the phone, Sam stumbles through the door. Like this all already happened.
and he got fucked up by like I assume the bad guys, but he doesn't say. Could have just
No, I
been
think
any
he says that like 3 guys. He was beat up by 3 guys.
I know, but I was like, I assume he doesn't say that they're like, what's the bad guy's name?
Brad Wesley.
Brad Wesley. It's not Brad Wesley's guys. I assumed they were. He doesn't say it. I thought he may have just gotten into a fight or something. But, yeah, overall. But what also Keith David randomly, very small character in the background.
Shows it was the bartender.
Yeah, random, but in this movie, the montage of him, like, or not, the series of events of him of Brad Wesley, like showcasing his power of fucking up. He like blows up Red's business, uses a monster truck in broad daylight to destroy the
car dealership.
The car dealership.
Which half of the people applaud. Half of the town is disgusted, and the other half are applauding. And I'm like, what?
So weird.
This town is fucked. Brad Wesley be damned. Some people are like, yeah, kill the business.
Someone should be like, wait, what? This guy's going to stop him from doing this to my front yard, you know? Which, doing research, the most expensive shot in the whole movie, like $500,000 or something like that.
More so than them blowing up random shacks.
Yeah. Yeah, the explosion at Red's is like a nuclear explosion. I was like, what were you guys holding inside that? The same at the Farmer John's house. It is a massive explosion. Well, I kept dynamite in my basement just in case, you know.
Well, Red makes more sense because it's like an auto parts shop with like oil and like things that are flammable. I don't know what Farmer John has in his fucking basement, but shit was electric.
There's a meth lab. We just don't know about it.
That
and then earring buddy guy like pull it off, cackling on his motorcycle.
I know.
And like he doesn't have a backpack. He doesn't have like anything. Like he just had like a stick of dynamite, and he's like Wile E. Coyote just running on his motorbike.
And then Patrick sees him and like immediately books it and catches up with him and just like jumps like some tiger out of the woods.
Dude.
Which is,
and the fight is so great. The fight is just good old 80s fisticuffs.
It's awesome.
And then we see the actual throat grab that we've heard about.
Well,
we heard that he could do it.
Yeah, that was the thing, is because I think they say that in earlier when he says, like a guy mentions like, oh, I think he killed a guy. And he's like, yeah, I ripped his throat out. And he says that. And I was like, oh, that's like a funny. And when I first hear it, I was like, oh, that's like a funny little
tall tale.
Yeah, tall tale. And like, oh, you ripped this guy's throat out. Yeah. And I was imagining like Indiana Jones fucking Temple of Doom. Like, and he just pulls out his fucking esophagus. But that's basically what he fucking does. He actually does it. I was like, oh, shit.
And then he has to stop himself from doing it later in the movie. Remember, he's like, "No, I can't do it again."
His character arc is that he is not a murderer, Jason. He's a victim of circumstance.
Yes, he's held back the throat grab.
He was one of the things that's lingering in the background is that he has many regrets because he slept with a woman who did not tell him that she was married, and the husband put a gun in his face, which caused him to have to kill the guy, ostensibly with the throat grab. And that haunts him throughout this movie. And so, yes, towards the end of the movie, he learns to let go and to not have to end things in absolute violence, which is kind of crazy that the blonde chick that he's into is disgusted by the fact that that earring guy pulls a gun on him and he kills him. And she's like, oh, how could you kill a man that pulls a gun on you?
Dude. Like,
checks to see if he's alive too, like runs over to the body floating in the lake. Yeah.
It would have made more sense if he had disarmed him and he had him like at a point of mercy and he's like begging for mercy and he fucking kills him anyway. That would be, and then she's disgusted. That would make a little bit more storytelling sense of like, okay, you didn't have to kill him, but you like, it's reasonable to kill him in that situation. And so it's like you understand the conflict of the character, but the way that he's 100% justified in killing this guy that's fighting him to the death and pulls a gun on him. And then she's like, oh, and after the dude just blew up the other fucking dude's house and tried to blow him to smithereens, she's like, still just like, I can't believe you would kill him. That's insane.
This entire movie was trying to justify killing these guys towards the end. You know, it was enough like death by paper cuts or small amounts. You know, it's like they kept wanting to show little things of how horrible these people were. So when they did finally get the throat rip, you're like, yeah, applauding it rather than be like, how could you?
He like drags his body into the water.
Kicks it.
Brad, Wesley.
Fuck you.
Fuck
He just
you.
says fuck
Yeah.
you. That's all he says. He says fuck you.
That's so great. I was like, not like I'm coming for you. None of that. Just fuck you. Oh my god, it's so great.
It doesn't even call Wesley out, so there could have been many people on that lake could have been like, "Is he talking to me? Is he want to fuck me?
Fuck me." It's
did I
the
do? I
said meme here.
Oh,
Fuck me.
Oh, the guy who flew the helicopter really low. Yeah, fuck him.
There was the element, and I said this before you guys saw the movie. I said that this movie is the inspiration for Jack Reacher, and one of the key differences being that in Jack Reacher, everyone's like, he's so big, the big guy. He's so big, he does everything. Oh, he's big. In this movie, everyone feels the need to keep reminding everybody that Patrick Swayze is, according to them, is a small man. Now, according to the internet, he's apparently like 5'10", which might mean he's actually 5'8", because that's typically how Hollywood heights work. Mm-hmm. But regardless, even if he's 5'10", it is interesting that they constantly make that a part of his character, that he's this small, unimposing looking guy, but can kill and rip dudes' throats out and does all these crazy things. And everyone just kind of envies him by looking at him.
Well, and it's like a world without guns until that scene too, because it's so many of those bar fights. There should have been someone pulling a gun on, but everyone has knives magically. I guess that's the 80s, is knives much easier to come across. And then we get that lake fight where he pulls out the gun, and then everyone has guns after that, and it's like and lots of them, and it's like with that Mercedes scene, which is like they had another checkbox of him driving the Mercedes into the house at the end, doing that flip and flipping or blowing up midair while they're shooting it and everything. I'm like, yes, that's another checkbox we had to get for the
another very A-team. Every A-team episode has a car flipping. Like that's literally a signature thing in almost every single episode. A car goes off, like they'll just, for whatever reason, some car goes flipping at some point in an episode.
And the icing on the cake for that scene is what was holding down the pedal? The knife that stabbed his best friend in the chest, and he was giving it back to him, stabbed in the pedal. And buddies whose knife it is happen to find it, sheaths it right back. He's like, I'm going to be using this again later.
Because, I mean, that's what I would do. If I saw a car blow up flying at me, I would go and check the pedal and make sure I got whatever was holding that down off.
Because they come in like he's still sitting there alive, definitely. God, that scene it just escalates so quickly. Like after that, like that's when it's just jumping the shark. It goes like holy shit, and then it's like he becomes stealth murderer. Like in this, or where guys are just now dead everywhere, but we don't see him, but just like a breeze blasting past. Was that behind me? I don't know.
It was basically the 80s version. I mean, it's like the Sicario Black Ops, but during the day, like broad daylight of just like God dang it, Benicio del Toro going through and murking people. That's basically what Swayze was doing. It's just like taking down an entire estate by himself.
Death by polar bear. Oh no, but he survives.
Oh yeah, he's okay. He's okay.
That was all. Patrick Swayze didn't do anything. The guy just freaks out, and the taxidermied bear just falls on top of the fat dude, who's like, ah! Like he's like you could almost hear like the sound effects of like the feet like Scooby doing, like trying to get away
underneath him. Yeah,
it's just like that was so weird, and just the guy's reaction. I'm like, why is this in the movie?
It was so corny. I was like, why is he freaking out because like a fake stuffed polar bear is falling on him? I don't.
It's literally just for the line, just for him to be like, "You two deserve each other.
You're made for each other." That's it.
Made for each other, which is.
That is the thing. The escalation of guns, and this is where the movie makes no sense if you think about it for too long. It's like, okay, so initially you're like, okay, this guy, this Wesley character runs things. He has a bunch of brutes that work for him, and they're the muscle that shake people down. That makes sense. And then this guy, this goody two-shoe shows up, and he's a problem. Okay. But when it gets to the point where he's murdering these dudes' friends and blowing up all these businesses, and you have when the Mercedes shows up and is driving through the estate and they all have guns and they're just waiting for him. If that was what your recourse was going to be, why not just, I don't know, send like one or like two or three or four or like 5 dudes with guns at the Double Deuce, just wait for him to come out of the building and then just shoot him like he's Sonny on the causeway?
Yep. It wouldn't be a very long movie.
No, but it's just like, how, like, this guy was clearly capable of the worst possible thing, and it's like he doesn't seem very capable of that early on. But again, minor gripe, just because it's an 80s movie, you just roll with it.
When they're in the trophy room, the final like scene where they're going around, and he's like, "So I've seen you found my trophy room. All the trophies I have here, I have everything but your ass."
I know. That's the weird thing, is that the way he said it, except your ass, is like he's saying, "No, I want your literal butt cheeks on my wall," because like he could have said like, "Except for your ass," like saying it like, "Yeah, I want you," but no, he says it like, "I literally want your buttocks
on my wall, taxidermied, so I can just slap it as I'm walking by. Jesus.
He's gonna chop off from his last vertebrae to the top of his hamstring. He's just gonna chop that off. He's just gonna have nothing but an ass.
A bust of the butt. A butt bust.
But Remy, you were mentioning earlier the Avengers sequence, which is unbelievable. I was dying laughing as well. Monica was checking on me and being like, "What's going on over there?" Because I was like laughing hysterically at what was happening.
It's so preposterous because, yeah, you're like, all right, finally, here we go.
Sorry,
got the showdown. Like, finally, he's gonna have the showdown with him. He's throwing around his African weapons and his spears and shit, random trophies that he's got, and then he's got him down. He's gonna kill him. He's like, gonna do it. He's like, you know what? And he has that moment. He's like, I'm not gonna. This is not who I am. I'm not a killer. Only to then have every guy that this dude has screwed over the course of the movie show up to buckshot him point blank, and like he takes it. He takes a it's like one shot to the chest, and he's still standing, and then there's another shot. How is he still standing? He took like 4 rifle shots right to the fucking dome. And then it's like the last one is the one that finally puts him down so he can crash through the glass table. But yeah, the car dealership guy who shows up for 5 minutes, he's there to shoot him. The Red's there to shoot him. The business owner of the Double Deuce, he's there to shoot him. Is there anybody else? Am I missing anybody else?
I think it's the three of them are there.
Yeah, the 3 of them. So they just all show up at the same time.
Yeah, the Farmer Joe. He shows up. Yeah, he got his
John shows up. 4 guys. 4 dudes. They all shoot him. To then have Mr. Allegedly Crooked Cop show up. And then he's just like, all right, this seems fine to me.
Like, Chief Wiggum from the Simpsons be like, "Oh, open and shut case. Nobody saw nothing."
Well, as soon as they shoot everyone, I don't know who it is, but some guy's sitting there and they're just handing him all the guns.
Oh, Red. I think Red goes over and collects all the guns.
Yeah, and then he kind of like runs off with like 20 guns on him just around the corner. The cops come in like the other door immediately, and he just kind of just like tosses him in a bush and then comes back around there like, "We're good, guys. I got rid of all the evidence. Don't worry."
And then the fucking fat guy just comes up and he's just like, "Well, golly gee," and then he says some line of
like something about the polar bear. I think it's like,
"I had a bear fall on me."
Yeah, like
everyone's like, "Ha ha ha!"
Yeah, and like they just blow him
laugh. The worse the joke, the longer you laugh.
Yeah, it's incredible. The ending just really goes crazy. What was that, Jason?
But Homegirl shows up, right before this. So she hadn't got to talk to Dalton since the throat grab incident at the side of the
well, no, because he shows up. He shows up at her work and begs her to go with him, and she says no.
No. And so she teleports to the mansion at the end just in time to see him.
She got it in a Quinjet.
Yeah. Just in time for him not to see the throat grab, so she immediately forgives him. Like, "Oh, you didn't clearly kill this guy who clearly deserved it, so you are, exempt." And then is there, and then the next scene they're like in some
Yeah,
river.
she's
doing it,
topless
you know?
again for no reason. For no reason, swimming topless. I was like, oh, nice. They just were like, yeah, just for fun. We're gonna get her tits out here one more time.
One more fan service
No,
right here at the
dude,
end.
one of like, because in checking the runtime of this being 2 hours, I was like looking. I'm like, all right, what scenes could I have cut? Their lovemaking scene goes on for quite a while. It's like them making out here, them making out up against the wall, clothes eventually coming off, them going to the bed, them falling asleep, waking back up, naked outside. Like, it's a long fucking scene just to show them kind of making love stuff.
Like, is that for the dudes, like the dudes that wanted to see the fight, or is this for the girlfriends and wives that were forced to watch this movie with their husbands? Like,
Look,
who was the scene for? You know?
They paid for Patrick Swayze's ass, and they're like, we're gonna show him naked as much as possible, baby.
100%.
So the movie wraps up rather quickly after that, after the gunshot. It basically shows them frolicking naked into the pond to then embrace and to make out as they have like pond scum all over their faces, and they're just swapping spit and stuff. And it's like, okay, all right.
It's the 80s.
And then credits pretty much roll at the double deuces. Everyone's having a good time. It looks all clean and professional, and the band's playing one more song, and then the credits roll, and that's like, boom, it's it.
Yeah, there's like no send off for Sam Elliott, who gets fucking knifed.
Yeah,
just like
killed.
I mean, they have his, he sheds a tear. He sheds a tear for him, a very resentful tear.
This is the face. He's just holding this face like
crumpling up the notes. Like,
I should have seen this coming. He said he was going to do it.
Oh, God.
But yeah, it is very strange because it's just like, oh, we won. We're happy. We're celebrating. And it's like, you lost your best friend. And
it's actually kind of a him choosing to go check out the girl and leaving Sam behind is very Dark Knight, Rachel and Harvey moment of him just being like, I'm going to go get the girl. And then, well, in that case, I guess the girl dies anyway. So it's a little bit different, but he did choose the girl.
So, Jason?
I was going to harp a little bit on the outfits in this movie, like just everyone, how they look and what they're dressed is like super 80s. But then even Patrick Swayze, some of his outfits though, because he has this like doja kimono, like whatever, like this kind of non-button shirt up because he practices like Tai Chi on the beach a couple times, and he's the PhD in philosophy. So he even dresses kind of almost this like Asian like kung fu garb, a couple of it. I'm like, is that kind of Bruce Lee era where everyone loves that kind of like, Asian, 80s? Like I feel like that was more 70s though, where it was like they had the Asian vibe to it. But there was many times where his outfits, I'm like, oh my God, like the pants, like the huge, like yes, and then they're like real baggy and they're real pleated, and like white too or something like that. But there's many times where I'm like, man, the clothing in this movie is just like so cool of that
era. Final thoughts and ratings. Rem, I know you're not
and favorite one-liners. Final thoughts, ratings, favorite one-liner.
Yes.
I think we need to do that.
Oh yeah, I mean,
final thoughts, ratings, favorite one-liners. Rem, before that, I know that you're not prepared necessarily. Maybe you need to pull up the IMDb list or whatever. But if you want to give an off-the-cuff sexiest characters,
yes,
in
who's
this
hot,
movie.
who's not? Yes,
that's a great. Okay.
Here, why you do that one? I need to just do one little favorite line. Real quick. Is being called a cocksucker, isn't it personal? No, it's just two nouns combined to elicit a prescribed response. Well, what if someone calls my mama a whore? Well, is she?
That's a great line. That's a great line.
That was one of my tops right there. Not the top, but that's up there.
That's really funny.
The line that it's just the way it's delivered. It's so 80s good. Is when the ruffians show up. And Dalton is like, sorry, boys, we're closed. It's just like, well, look, why are all these people here? It's like, well, they're drinking and having a good time. Well, that's why we're here. It's stupid to have a good time. And immediately breaks into a fight.
The doctor asks him, do you enjoy pain? He goes, Pain don't hurt.
That is the cousin of "I ain't got time to bleed" of a line. That's like that same
Pain
shit.
don't hurt.
All right, I'm basically gonna list 3 men and the 3 women, and I'm gonna use my list. So I'm gonna say out of this entire list, Kathleen Will Hoyt is bottom. She's the least attractive. After her, I'm going. I mean, if we're going pure hotness, I'm putting Elizabeth next. Elizabeth is very attractive. This is actually a very just basically a only hot list. So, with Carrie being the bottom runner here, but so I'm gonna go a little love interest Elizabeth at number 5. I'm going Jimmy at 4. Jimmy's just ultimate pretty boy for a very obvious reason. And then I'm going to go Denise. Yes, slut, but we are talking of just about hot here. Just about hot. We're not talking about
it's hard to say
content of character. If it was content of character, Elizabeth would be higher, but we're not.
Carrie, I think, would be the highest if we factor in all the intangible. She seems like the coolest. She seems way cooler to be around than Elizabeth.
Yeah, for
Elizabeth
sure.
is just like, okay, she's a doctor and she's nice, but she's not like crazy. Like, oh my god, this is amazing. I feel like Carrie definitely is the one that put the most effort into her personality.
For sure. That's the girl that you would actually want to spend the rest of your life with, because she, without even thinking about it, she shows up with breakfast in the morning for him, like right after meeting him. That's a major green flag.
And she would not storm away.
That's a good start.
If you had to defend yourself in Mortal Kombat to the death against some scumbag, she would not then be like, I cannot believe you did that. She'd like immediately take your clothes off and like just do it all over Jimmy's corpse right there.
Yes, for 100%, 100%. So
on Team Dalton no matter what.
Yeah. So Jimmy at 4, Marshall Teague, Julie Michaels, Denise at 3, and I, as tempted as I am to put Sam Elliott number 1, it's so tempting because he's so goddamn attractive, and just has been attractive his whole freaking life.
How well Sam Elliott does the hair throughout.
Dude,
the
it's great. I know. I was like, dude, when he slicks that shit back, and then he like has that one part where he's about to get in the fight, and he puts it back up, at the top to get it out of his face. Oozing charisma.
I wonder if bald dudes watching this movie, it's like the phantom limb. They can like feel like the pull on the scalp when he does that.
Coming in at number 1, obviously Patrick Swayze. I mean, he's at the peak of his powers right there, and he's got the nice, slick, glistening body that he Krav Magas and kung-fu's his way on through the sunlight out in the open so everybody can watch him. Great. Yeah, it's great. It's a good 6. I will say.
Well done.
It's a good top 6 people. But nice. favorite line, I used to fuck guys like you in prison. Great fucking line. Best line of the goddamn movie. One of the best lines I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah. It's so good. It's the fact that they, like I said, that they build it up and then he says it. It's just like, it's such a ridiculous line. I forget, but there is what's the one with Chris Pratt, Community? Or
Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec. There's a scene out of that where he recites. We should watch it after this. There's a scene where he literally recites that whole sequence, and he says he verbally breaks down what's happening, and then he's like reenacting the whole fight by himself.
Wow. Oh yes, he does the entire movie of Roadhouse from beginning to end, talks it out. That's right, in front of the kids at one of the kids parties. That's right.
Yeah, it is at the park. Yeah. Wow. It's been a long time since I've watched that whole show once all the way through, and I really do like that show. But it's been a while now since I've seen it. But I do. There are 2. I would say there's a few great moments in that show where people are reciting. One is Patton Oswalt going through his Star Wars Marvel universe
Yes.
blend.
Filibuster.
Yeah, filibuster. And then that moment with Chris Pratt was really good.
And his gloved hand comes out of the Sarlacc pit. His gloved hand comes out of the Sarlacc pit. People are trying to stop him. He won't be stopped.
It's great. Yeah. But as far as ratings go, I give this movie, I'll give it a 7 out of 10. I mean, script wise, story wise, screenplay wise, it's like a 5.5, but it's so much fun that it brings it up to a 7.
Nice. Me next. Yeah, final thoughts. I mean, just classic 80s is just so much fun. I'm so glad I finally watched that movies, and I feel like I'm gonna get so much more cult references, that I'd been missing out on. The ratings, I want to give it higher, but it is that like 6, 7, 8, kind of thing. So I was gonna go with the solid 7 with it too. That it is just such a fun movie. Like, this is a movie that I could see just me growing up should have been putting it on when you're in like a house party or in the background, lots of friends. Oh, wait for this scene or some of the fun things. So this is just a classic fun movie. I mean, I imagine there's like drinking games that go along with this one that could be super fun watching this movie. Yeah. Like, it is just like one of those movies, and so telling of the times. So yeah, a solid 7. What else? Oh, favorite one-liners. I think I went over a couple of them, but one other one I had written down is when Dalton walks into one of the bartenders having sex in the storage closet or something like that, and he goes, "Hey, yo, Steve, your history." He's like, "But I'm on break," and he's like, "Well, stay on it." He's like, "Ah, shit," and just closes the door behind him. It's like, that scene is just so telling of like him firing all this just degenerate fucks that are like working in this bar, and this guy, "But I'm on break," but then the other one actually that I would walk away with is the philosophy PhD side of him, like really flexing. It's where he talks about his simple rules, which I think is like such a cool part of this movie. And that, I mean, I'm a restaurant manager, and I can even see myself trying to embody all these 3 rules, like thinking them to myself.
I dare you to walk in tomorrow, sit everybody down, and say these 3 words.
Hey, I do that. I do pre-shifts every day. And so I was even thinking of like, so I watched Roadhouse last night, and I wanted to embody these 3 rules. Never underestimate your opponent. I'm like, never underestimate your guest, or something like that, equated there. Expect the unexpected. Always take it outside. I don't know how that would work in a restaurant where something's going on, just take it outside, and then never start anything inside the bar unless absolutely necessary. I think that goes with 2. And then step 3, just being nice, or rule 3, it's like how he has these like 3 like very like simple rules to live by. And it's like, and I feel like the whole movie embodies that until I guess the end, where it gets very violent. But yeah, I had a fantastic time watching that movie.
The one
I actually Sorry, one more thing. I wasn't going to see the remake, but now I'm going to see how much it compares to this old one. Yeah.
There's the scene where they're not be nice is when One Earring Guy takes a pool cue and just starts using the stick as a weapon, and so Dalton gives the go ahead for 3 guys to take him on at once in the middle of the bar, and he fucks the bouncers up, and then uses the pool cue to pole vault over the body and flip onto the stage, which is one of the craziest things I've ever seen someone do with a pool cue.
I love the fact that they have a specific shot of the pool cue going in between the floor and his fucking fat belly to walk him over there. Great detail. Oh my god, I was laughing out loud. I was like, because you could have just had him run and stick it and it would have been fine, but they're like, no. People need to understand the leverage from the belly. So it's great. It's so great.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's a 7 out of 10 movie, 8 out of 10 80s movie, but 7 out of 10. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, the fun part is the bar rescue of just trying to turn the Double Deuce into a respectable establishment. That's the fun part. Gets crazy the longer it goes, but there's still great action sequences. And it's I do need to watch the other Patrick Swayze movies I haven't watched. I would say that the perfect movie next to this is Point Break is also just a fantastic early 90s, I think, technically. Yeah. But that is another Patrick Swayze vehicle of awesomeness. And I guess that's how. I guess that's right.
Hey. Oh yeah.
I thought you were just gonna go right into it, so I thought.
Yeah, or some vehicle of awesomeness is like that was.
Usually I'm much better at picking up the signal, but I wasn't. I was a little slow.